welcome to the Gould-Fish Pod. I'm Matt Gould.
And I'm Ryan Fish.
And we're back and ready to do this yet another week. Fish, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there. How's it going on your end?
I'm doing what I can, man. Every day. Fall's finally coming to a close tomorrow. We have our last game of the fall tomorrow. It's the biggest challenge we'll have had, and we'll see how it goes. But and then it'll slow down very briefly, and then it'll get fast again. So I am gonna live it up while I have a little bit of leniency in the schedule.
Yeah, with my work schedule, this fourth quarter, is going to be super big with people buying and all the holidays. So I just got to make sure I enjoy the disc golf while I have it. You know what I'm saying? Before it escapes.
Because once it escapes, it's going to be too cold and you're going to be working all day and you're just going to wish that at the end of the day you could have gone and played some disc golf.
Exactly.
Well, let's get into things here. I didn't disc golf at all this week. It was not we're recording earlier than we have, but either way, I didn't have time to get out. Hopefully an outing this weekend.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Wasn't able to get out yet, but hopefully this weekend I can, get out and toss some discs.
So since we don't have a ton of disc golf to talk about, we don't have any disc golf to talk about, actually, we're going to do this new thing that we came up with literally seconds before I started the show. I'm going to go on the Wrestling Observer front page, and I'm going to click on the news tab, and I'm just going to go through a bunch of random news headlines, and we're going to get Fish's reaction on them. He's not going to know what I'm going to bring his way. However, I do want to start with one that is not so fun. So I'm just gonna kind of throw this out there. Kevin Nash's son actually passed away at the age of 26 today.
I did see that on Twitter, and that's hard to see.
Yeah, I didn't even see like much more just than that it happened. There was a statement by the family, but it says that it was just done very briefly. It's just a brief message letting people know. So there's nothing about why or anything, but our hearts go out to him, of course.
Absolutely.
In other news, a little bit lighter, we did have an Impact Bound for Glory show 2 weeks ago. Did you hear about this?
I did see some stuff on Twitter about it, but it wasn't like totally on my radar.
So did you know that Frankie Kazarian was the X Division champion?
I did not know until Twitter told me he was the X Division champion. I'm like, what is he? I thought he was still in AEW. So,
I mean, I think he is, but apparently he's the X Division champion right now, and he's relinquishing the title already. That's the headline.
For what reason?
So,
nothing.
In Impact, ever since they added a clause called Option C, which Option A is just keep the title. There is no Option B. So I'm just going to assume that it's C for championship. Option C is when you can relinquish the X Division title, and in exchange, you get a chance at the world title.
So I do remember this because it happened when Josh Alexander did it for Moose. So I do recall that being, and that was like more recently.
Yeah, that was not that long ago.
So
that's what's happening. And I just think it's funny because, like, if you won that title and your options were keep the title or get a chance at the world title, if you thought you were any good, would you not just immediately give the thing up?
Yeah.
Like, who's trying to defend this thing for months and months without getting a title shot?
Yeah, unless you're trying to find, use it strategically. And, if you don't think you can beat the champ, you hold on to it a little bit. And then if there's a guy that you can beat, you cash it in. But it's still hard to
But
fathom.
you risk losing the title and losing your opportunity to cash it in.
Right. Because you can jump straight to the front of the line.
Anyway, there's a Steve Austin animated television show that was going to be made but has been frozen in development. Can you believe it? A Steve Austin animated series?
I can't believe it.
Like, what would that even look like?
I have no idea. That's
Would they be reliving his best memories in animated form with like funny little cartoon characters? Like, are they just gonna? Because I actually might be able to get behind an animated series where it is just the best moments from The Rock and Stone Cold's rivalry. Only there's these two little animated talking head guys. I could totally get behind that. That would be hysterical.
yeah, and throwing back some beers and throwing up the middle fingers too. Is it what kind of rating are we talking about?
Like, seriously, let's think about this now. If you turned it into like a Family Guy style, like, a TV 14 show, which they definitely won't do, that shit could be hilarious.
That would be really funny.
They'll never do it because they just won't. It's going to be for children, I'm sure, and it'll not be very good. But man, what they could do with it, now that I think about it, it could probably be pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's like, I had a beer, had another beer.
Little cartoon.
Yeah.
So the next piece, did you hear about the Carl Anderson openweight title fiasco?
So the only thing I've seen Carl Anderson is like he was on NXT. Is that correct? Like there was like a clip of him on NXT.
Well, here's the story. Carl Anderson is the never openweight champion. Like technically he is right now.
Mm-hmm.
However, he is re-signed with the WWE.
Right.
And apparently, the date that he was supposed to be wrestling, I think they're going to be in Saudi Arabia at the time on the exact same day. So it's probably not possible for him to be in both places at once. And based on how the WWE does business, and based on where Carl Anderson is in his career, they probably said, yeah, you're not going to defend the title. And he said, okay.
Did Luke Gallows join too?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Yeah, it looks like he is. All right, how about this one? Road Dogg said that Billy Gunn texted him and said that he is in for the WWE DX reunion special that they did. And then he was not invited.
He was in and not invited. Well, there's a reason why Billy Gunn is doing Billy Gunn things. I mean, he's too busy scissoring right now to be a part of something. So he's actually too busy being a world champ, tag world champ, coach, manager, daddy ass, whatever you want to call it. He's too busy winning right now.
He does have a lot going on. However, you would think that you got this big star. Think about this. Of all the people in that group, he's somehow still on television and somehow still super over.
And still wrestling.
Yes, and wrestling. I mean, granted, it's not like Triple H during his kind of final run wrestled incredibly. He was still pretty damn good when he needed to be. Shawn Michaels, same thing, but he did retire earlier than Triple H. But at the same time, Billy Gunn is like in his 60s or in his late 50s.
Yeah, he's
58, I think he is. 57.
And still in incredibly great shape.
Yeah. So there's levels to this shit, you know?
Yeah. Chess, not checkers.
Also, last thing here before we move into the AEW stuff for the week. Ace Steel. Well, I guess this is an AEW thing. Ace Steel, see that. Released from AEW. So I guess good riddance.
That was the first sign of kind of what all happened at the pay-per-view backstage.
Yeah. So there's the fallout continues.
Do we have like a name for this? Like, Malice at the Palace? Like, is there a name that we can coin to this?
We might have to workshop one.
I think so.
Brawl out at all out?
The brawl out at all out. That's not bad for coming that up on the fly,
Hey, shoot us a comment or send us an email at gouldfishpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, tweet us.
Tweet us too. Same handle, @gouldfishpod. What should we name this backstage brawl event? I hope we get a comment for this one.
I hope so too.
This is actually comment worthy. And then before we actually break right into the Dynamite show, we might as well start off with this since it's easily the biggest news coming out of the show. Hangman Page suffered a concussion during the main event, and they had to stop the match with about 10 minutes left to go in the show. Turns out, pretty bad concussion if they're stopping the match and he wasn't able to get up.
Yeah, went limp.
That's been it's funny how that works. Not funny because concussions are funny, but it seems that stuff like this, when it rains, it pours. You've got all that stuff in the NFL going on. Like the poor Dolphins can't go a week without getting a quarterback a concussion. I don't think they've had the same guy start and finish a game in 3 weeks now. So the light has kind of been shown back on concussions. There was a couple of other guys who were hit pretty hard and have gotten concussions. Adam Cole out with a concussion.
Yeah, still not back.
Hangman Page looks like he had a pretty bad concussion. Nobody knows this for sure because they kept it on the hush hush. But when Bryan Danielson was out, like he was out for a while. No one ever found out why. I mean, his history is concussion, so it's presumed that that's probably what he was dealing with. Because if you pull your hamstring and miss 3 weeks, first of all, those guys are working on the pulled hamstring, and second
Not
of all,
like me.
No, they don't give a shit. they're going to be out there in some way, shape, or form, and they wouldn't be a secret. Like they would use it as a part of a match.
Yeah, you tape up the leg. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it is funny, not because concussions are funny, but just when there's a crack in the armor breaks down pretty quickly, and you see a lot of concussion news back in the headlines of both wrestling and major sports.
Yeah, the big one was is definitely the Dolphins, and I did see a couple tweets. A little dark humor, but the jokes are kind of flying around just because basically how well the Dolphins had treated concussion protocols.
Well, and if we want to go even one step further down the dark humor pathway, it might be right to say that Hangman Page is now qualified to play quarterback for the Dolphins.
Yes, there you go.
But in all seriousness, he did go down pretty hard. Like it kind of looked like he was out
almost
before
like
he hit the ground.
Yeah, I was going to say that because it looked like he was going to line up for that backflip kind of thing, with the lariats where they kind of oversell it. And it seemed like right when he got hit, like his body just went limp.
Yeah, his momentum did not continue. His body just kind of flopped down.
He had to have been out before.
Well, and God bless how far around he had gotten.
Yeah, because he could have landed right on his head again.
Yeah, the way he came down, like when it happened so fast, the first thing
I was shoulder.
I was worried about his shoulder and his neck because it looked like his head kinked really weird.
I was gonna say, to me, I thought it was just he might have broken his collarbone.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it didn't look good. And I get so worried about guys, especially like Hangman and the neck, that I don't know if relieved is the right word, but I feel almost better knowing that it is a concussion and not a broken neck. Just because the way he fell, the angle, and how fast it happened, I thought neck immediately. I thought Moxley accidentally caught him low, and he caught a stinger on the neck, and then he went down and his head hit the mat. And then I saw the replay angle of it, and it was clear not. But I was terrified because you know how some of these dudes like to land high up on those shoulders. Sometimes when you've done that a lot, it doesn't take one really bad one. It just takes a regular one.
We talk about Trent having that spinal stenosis, and he's still repeatedly landing on his head.
And even with him, it wasn't like we could go back and pick out one moment where he would have damaged his neck so badly that he needed double fusion surgery or whatever it is that he got.
It's the wear and tear.
But if you watch Trent weekly and then I tell you, hey, he's getting fusion surgery, it makes sense because it happens so often. But I couldn't pick out one instance in which Trent badly damaged his back or neck. He did it all the time and seemingly kept going. So
right.
So one way or the other, we hope the Hangman ends up riding high once again, and obviously he'll probably be high on the list of people who will be getting a world title shot, whoever the champion might be when he does return. And when he does, people will be super excited because of not that they wouldn't be excited in other circumstances, but the nature of how this went down. Middle of the show, had to end early, world title match. Like when he does come back, he will get the hero's welcome he deserves. That's for sure.
And also shout out to Cincinnati for being a good crowd.
Oh yeah.
And chanting cowboy shit and really, really pulling for him. So it's nice to see that the wrestling crowd was really pulling for him.
That is always nice to see. And we hope that he gets better at whatever pace is required of him to stay healthy.
Yep.
We don't need people rushing back, and especially not with the head. He's got a long career ahead of him. No need to rush back and damage yourself. So Godspeed to Hangman Page. Hope he does. Hope he recovers and gets better. Ready to move into Dynamite?
Absolutely.
From a Tuesday night in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was Title Tuesday. And we kicked the show off with the Death Triangle defending the AEW World Trios title against none other than Orange Cassidy and his band of Merry Misfits, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. What did you think, Fish?
I thought it was good, not great. I definitely felt like the Lucha Bros carried more in this match than other times I felt like they've wrestled the best friends. I just felt like Penta and Rey Fenix were literally everywhere during this match. But
so sometimes
go ahead.
No, go finish. Go ahead.
I was just say, but then they also really just kept settling down with the Orange Cassidy pack. Like they kept really trying to hit that home.
Which I don't know. I thought the feud ended and it was already hit home, but
right.
All right. I was gonna say sometimes I feel like when the Lucha Bros wrestle, like when the Lucha Bros are wrestling in an important title match, or like go back and look at any of the big Lucha Brothers matches, like the whole match is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a different pace to it. It's still the Lucha Brothers, still doing their crazy stuff.
Yep.
But it's almost like a little more coherent. And then other times, and this is how I felt about this match, the direction seems to be Lucha Brothers. Just go pick 10 of your favorite spots and sequences to run and run them. And then they went out there and they picked their 10 favorite things to do and did all of those things, but it didn't feel like it was actually a match. It felt like it was just Lucha Bros highlight reel because we got to give the people a good opener. And it was good. Like I enjoyed it. It's just, I don't know. It's still the best friends.
Yeah, like I said, good, not great.
Yeah. So I don't know. I enjoyed it as an opener. Hopefully this feud can get on and done with.
Kick rocks.
Yeah, seriously. So the next thing of note, there was a couple video packages, but we'll kick it to Tony Schiavone being backstage with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter and Rebel. And they said that one of them will be the champion because Tony time is over. So it looks like, once again, they are hinting us in the direction of Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker having something to be at odds about. And we will see if this time that is actually the direction that we head in.
And I vote no because I'm
tired I vote no too.
Because I'm tired of voting yes at this point.
Yeah. Yes. If you want it to be this way, fine. I don't want it anymore. And then that led into the Toni Storm interim women's championship defense against Hikaru Shida, which she did so successfully. Toni Storm beat her. I thought this was a pretty good match.
Yeah, I thought this was actually really good.
Yeah, this is pretty great. I actually like this as a wrestling match better than the opener.
Yeah, as a whole, I think this one was
as a stunt show. The first one was better,
right? But you're not going to get Toni Storm and Shida to do 30 Canadian destroyers in a match as well. No. So,
but what you will get to see them do is have Toni Storm attempt to take her head off with her own ass
Every time.
Every time. No different this time. Absolutely murdered this girl.
I'm surprised they don't get concussions, since concussion's a hot topic. Like, their heads just snap back for just like whiplash.
See, that's what it looks like to me. It looks pretty clear to me that their head is whipping back into the buckle, but they do it so often and they haven't changed it. So I feel as if maybe you and I are just not made privy to something. Like, there's got to be some secret here if they're continuing to do it and having no issues.
Yeah, I guess so.
But then after the match was kind of the big news here too. Sheeta back in action. She looked good. I mean, she's been wrestling, but one-on-one title match, and big match Sheeta came through. But after the match, Hayter and Rebel came down with a crutch and they hit the ring and they started the beatdown. And then Britt Baker came out wearing a Steelers jersey, which the crowd absolutely did not love at all. But Saraya cut her off, tackled her onto the floor. They brawled through the crowd. Hayter and Rebel, they just kept beating the shit out of Toni Storm. And Riho made her return and somehow managed to take out both ladies with one dive off the top rope. I don't know how they didn't just catch her, but more power to her. And the fans loved Riho.
Yeah, I was gonna say the crowd went absolutely nuts.
Yes, they were pretty happy to get some Riho in Cincinnati, Ohio. And hopefully Toni Storm has another partner to help fight off the dentist. And
I think so.
Riho. She's always needing to find partners to fight off this goddamn dentist.
Pesky.
So in case anybody missed it from that super banger of a Rampage show last week, they reminded us that the Kingdom debuted.
That actually happened. Yeah, thanks.
It was the thing that happened. All the stuff that they don't remind us about on a week-to-week basis and expect us to know what's going on, but this is the video package they made sure to cram in the show here. And then for one of the most perplexing segments ever, just because when they finally were going to address this, it's taken so long that I think it was destined to be perplexing. Renee Paquette is backstage with FTR. She ran down the resume from the past year and she asked when they're adding more hardware to the collection. And Harwood listed some challengers he's got. But here we go again. Ultimately, what he wants is the AEW titles. And even though they've been number one contenders forever, Swerve and Our Glory, for some reason, saying that FTR didn't make AEW their priority, and so they deserve a shot more. And so now they're going to have a match to see who the number one contender is, even though FTR has been the number one contender and not gotten the title match for like 7 months. Am I missing something?
No.
Or is it as blasphemous as I described?
Pretty much. Yeah, that's just the only thing is that, since they were prior champs, they get to cash in their rematch at any point.
I guess, but why haven't other former champions done that?
Jericho's done it, and it took him 3 years to do it.
And it took him forever. Other times, rematches just come out of the blue. But yeah,
I don't know. I don't know who else.
My biggest problem with wrestling is that they never set any actual rules, and I almost feel like it's on purpose, so that when situations like this occur, you've got all the people who just, like, for WWE for several years, they just announced that everybody who lost their title was entitled, they had a rematch clause. And I think everybody's got so used to, the title, if you lose it, you get a rematch, that whenever a random rematch does happen, they just go, he lost the title. He's just using his rematch clause. That's not it. They just randomly happen. Like, sometimes there's a build, sometimes there's even a good build, but a lot of times, like, not one time has the actual story been, I never got a rematch for the title I lost. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've done it with the TNT title. I feel like they have. But it comes and goes when that whole rematch clause thing is actually enforced. Next, we kick to Alex Marvez backstage with Jay Lethal, and he wants a rematch with Darby Allin. He said he agreed to a no physicality clause. And Well, for Darby, it ended with him trapped under a steel garage door with Jay Lethal putting the figure 4 on him. His body was like in
In
half.
half, yeah.
His legs were on one side of the door, and Lethal walks through the regular door on the other side. And I was just sitting there going, oh, I hope he puts him in the figure 4. And that's exactly what he did. What did you think about this?
I thought, right when you say there's no physicality, it's, you want to say like, yeah, like I want to believe him, but 9 times out of 10, I don't believe him. So
The only time I ever believe them is if they agree to no physicality.
the signing
And there's a rule that if there is physical interaction, that the match is off or somebody doesn't get their match or if they have to be provoked. Like, then that's the 1 out of 10 times that I believe that no one's going to touch each other.
Right.
All the other times, bullshit.
It's still a great segment. Jay Lethal and Darby Allin work great together. So
yeah, I don't mind watching them wrestle again for sure. So the next segment was the big one. Tony Schiavone is in the ring with Regal. He goes to ask Regal a question, and before he can say anything, he's interrupted by MJF, who approaches the ring, and then they're off to the races pretty much. This segment was incredible. What did you think?
Yeah, and we talked about before where it's, reality, in the mix makes it that much more compelling. But this is not, I didn't think it was one of those generic kind of reality twists in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like this one had a different tone, I would say. Like, I don't know how to describe it besides like William Regal came back harder with MJF and like actually gave him like facts, and you're just like, well, that's different. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was just everything said was like factual.
That's what I think the big thing is here. The best way to bring truth and reality into wrestling is to tell a story. Like, literally tell a story from start to finish. And that's all he came out here and did. He came out here and told the story about he was a 19-year-old who met William Regal when he got some extra work and he was hanging out backstage at a WWE event and was told, you're going to have handful of minutes to have a practice match, a tryout match. And he talked about all the names that were there watching and how great his match was. And then William Regal pulled him aside and said that he was going to get him a job here today. And then he took him into a room, told him he had 3 minutes to sell himself, was blown away, jaw on the floor, said that he was going to go get him a job, and then said, wait, how old are you? And he said 19. And he told him, sorry, that's too young. And the story would continue that Regal asked MJF if he would send him video and a promo of him wrestling and talking every month so that he could track his progress. And so that's what Max did. And only 3 months in, Regal sent back that none of the stuff he was sending was actually interesting him and that he'll reach out to him when he's ready to be a superstar. And that's the story that MJF told. He told it better than I did and with more detail, of course. However, all he did was tell a story about something that happened. And I think that's the best way to bring reality into wrestling. I wish he hadn't said this is real life because I had no reason not to believe him anyways. So I think you're right. The fact that it was all truth and facts, and even if some of it is a little bit embellished, it's enough truth that it's going to work either way. And I think that the whole spin of this thing is Regal saying that. So, like, here's how I took the ending. Regal said that if MJF really wanted to be the devil, he could do it, but he won't. And I think Regal's whole thing is he wants so badly for people to like him that he'll take shortcuts and he'll insult crowds. But at the end of the day, he doesn't want anybody booing him. And so he wasn't willing to attack William Regal from behind. Because at the end of the day, think about MJF's like character trajectory. His feud with Punk was over CM Punk letting him down and him being overly emotional about it and blaming CM Punk for all of his life's worries. His feud here, Regal's pointing, the whole reason he's upset is Regal gave him all the attention that he wanted and told him he was a star and then turned his back on him and disappointed him and made him angry. So underneath the surface of an MJF that takes the cheap shot, that likes to cheat, he'll punch you with a ring and he'll insult your city's quarterback. But that is pretty low-hanging fruit stuff for a bad guy to do. That's
Mm-hmm.
bad guy 101. And Regal's thing here is, you're not the bad guy. And then he just totally exposes himself, and he won't do it. So I think that is the MJF story. And I think it's a shame if he actually does want to go WWE, because in the WWE, if this is actually the route they're going, as I've kind of laid it out here, he would never in 1 million years be allowed to tell this kind of story
No, he
for
wouldn't.
this length of time. No, people would forget about it. It would end up in the background. It would come and go. But if that's really what they're getting at, I think that's a highly sophisticated television angle with a lot of thought put into it.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, especially like William Regal. I think one of the other one was, I can't remember the exact thing, but he was the villain or something. He was like a good villain. He didn't have to cheap shot like Tony
Yes.
Schiavone. He said, "I did whatever I did it in the ring."
What did he call himself?
I thought it was an ordinary villain, but
No, it was an
I wouldn't think
oddly
so.
something villain. An oddly decent villain, an ODV. I think that's what he called himself. Oddly decent because he'd cheat to win a match because he wanted to, but he would never put his hands on Tony Schiavone.
Right.
Which kind of throws a whole wrinkle in my thing, because putting your hands on Tony Schiavone is something a bad guy would do, but also MJF is known to lose his cool. And
So he headbutted Tony Schiavone.
Yeah. But since he is this guy who pents up so much frustration in his own rejection, it would make sense for him to spill over,
expose it,
and do something like that. But Regal is showing that that is not his first instinct, because he gave him the opening and he did not take it.
Mm-hmm. Powerful stuff.
It is pretty fascinating. Renee Paquette then was backstage with the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, and oh man, like I said, sometimes they don't know when to stop. And with this whole title versus trademark thing, a perfect tagline for a Rampage match, by the way. Something about some team that has no chance putting something arbitrary on the line against actual titles, that just screams Rampage to me.
Screaming Rampage right now.
So if the Acclaimed win against Tony Nese and Josh Woods, they get to use the scissoring antics again. And if Woods and Nese win, they are the AEW World Tag Team Champions, I guess. So FTR and Swerve in Our Glory are currently fighting to see who gets the titles. And all Josh Woods and Tony Nese had to do was get a lawyer to drum up a fake, preposterous lawsuit. Never win anything, and they do get a title match.
Hey, notch on the belt for Tony Nese being Mr. Rampage yet again.
Whatever. It's not his fault that Tony uses him like this.
No.
The next match was... Oh, actually, before we get to the next match, we had they cut back to earlier in the day, and they did the interview with Danielson.
The sit down.
The sit down. Obviously, Danielson not happy about his loss, but he still had high hopes for Daniel Garcia. He's not giving up on the guy. Still thinks that he could be the best pro wrestler ever, but he needs the proper guidance, and clearly he doesn't think that that's Jericho. Yuta, not as accepting. He was pretty pissed about this whole thing. Rightfully so. He feels as if that Danielson was the only one who did not see that Garcia was using them. So that's an interesting wrinkle in that story. Now we go to the next match, which I was overeager to get to, because how could you not be? Chris Jericho with Jake Hager defeating Dalton Castle and the boys to retain the Ring of Honor World Championship. I got to hear Bobby Cruz say, "The boys." And the match was pretty damn great.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was everything I wanted and more.
Dalton Castle appears so infrequently that you forget how good he can be. And he also had like 18 different injuries at once, like a couple years back. So he was like rehabbing and banged up for a while. And then he kind of came back, and then COVID happened, so he hadn't done much. But he is so good.
Yeah, he put on an electric match.
It's so funny that a guy who comes out dressed as a peacock and parades around with the boys is like a suplex machine.
Yeah, and he was holding Jericho up there for like quite some time too.
His entire offensive repertoire does not fit him, the character, at all, and somehow that makes it fit.
The different style.
But yeah, you know, the crowd wanted Dalton Castle to win. At the end, they got really into it. And when Jericho hit this Judas effect, he absolutely clocked this guy.
Dalton Castle did go down.
He clocked this dude. And then the Jericho Appreciation Society came out to celebrate as Jericho celebrated him destroying Ring of Honor champions, ring announcers, and now commentators. Angelo Parker and Matt Menard were basically instructed to go after Ian Riccaboni. So they dragged him onto the stage. And then I didn't know this, but apparently Jerry Lynn is a former Ring of Honor champion. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
And he made the save. And then after a brief stare down, Jericho now laid out Lynn with a tombstone pile driver.
Onto the belt.
Onto the stage.
And they really sold it Jerry Lynn's neck surgeries as well. So it was diabolical that Jericho did that.
Which almost definitely means Jerry Lynn's coming back for one last match to try and restore honor.
What was funny was commentary. One, it was just all over the place, which was actually fun listening to because it was just all over the place. Like it was a fun craziness. But it was
word vomit is what it was.
But Taz was like, being, the bad guy, was saying like, yeah, well, it's okay to go after people and stuff like that. And then he's like pile driving Jerry Lynn onto the belt. He's like, yeah, actually, I don't like that. He just like takes it back. He's like, yeah, that might have gotten a little too far.
You know what's funny to me is he had no issue with them going after Riccaboni.
Yeah, no issue.
Who is also a commentator. So you would think like Taz should be worried, like, dude, they're just willing to beat up commentators. I got like 2 neck surgeries. I'm not trying to be a part of that. But when they beat up the more well-bodied, not as much damage on Jerry Lynn, that not that I know of, at least.
Right.
He gets attacked, and Taz is like, oh no, I draw the line there. No.
There's one part.
Coach? No.
And Taz on commentary started to go off on a little tangent here, but he was mad at Excalibur for interrupting, and that was hilarious. I don't know if you caught that.
I did, and I can't even believe that I forgot to bring it up, but it was my favorite part of the match.
He was so mad that Excalibur interrupted. He's like, no, I'm mad at you.
Thank God somebody finally got it laid into this guy. So after that, they recapped everybody's favorite storyline. They did the Luchasaurus Jungle Boy Christian Cage. And Christian Cage put champions on notice because apparently Luchasaurus is now a title contender and we should all be wary of him.
Psych.
Do you believe him?
No.
Backstage, Jade Cargill demanded that Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray tell her where the TBS title is. If she doesn't know, how would they know?
It's technically her belt.
Yeah, why doesn't she know where it is? Nyla Rose wasn't there, but she will be at Rampage. And Jade looked at the camera and said that she'll hijack the show for 60 minutes if Nyla doesn't give her the TBS title back. And that would be brutal. Please just give her the fucking title back. And it brings us to the main event, which we kind of talked about Hangman earlier, but Jon Moxley technically picks up the win via doctor stoppage after Hangman's lights went out a little bit. He caught him on the head with a King Kong lariat, and if you think about it, that King Kong lariat was bound to knock somebody out. Someone was going down.
There's a reason why they call it a King Kong lariat.
Exactly. But up until that point, the match was awesome. Like, I feel bad that we didn't get it.
It started out so hot too.
Yeah.
Hangman went into the crowd, attacked him, even went for the moonsault from the railing or whatever. I don't know what they call it, but
And I don't think they ever had a one-on-one singles match either.
no, just that brief interaction at the ladder match.
Yeah. So it started very hot. It looked like it was going to be awesome. Unfortunately, halfway through, that incident happened. But we talked about it, and hopefully Hangman comes out and heals, and when he's good to go, he'll come back. It was a little scary when it happened, though, because, they cut to commercial, you come back and the ropes are down, and you find out a guy is stretchered out. Like, your mind wanders.
Yeah, exactly.
So to save time at the end here and kind of carry us to the end of the show, Moxley grabbed a mic and he started to go on and basically said that you basically told us what we already know. It's a violent physical thing, and you got to have guts if you want to come in here and do this. And that's kind of just how it goes sometimes. And he called out MJF. So MJF storms out, and this is where I did not like any of this. This poker chip. It's again with the not clarifying any rules ever. It's just fucking lazy. All you have to do is make a decision and broadcast it and have your commentators remind people about it. It's so easy. What are the rules for this chip? Because a Money in the Bank briefcase can be cashed in whenever. It was my understanding with this chip. Now I realize this is my own fault for doing the same thing I talked about earlier. I assumed this chip was you win a future title shot scheduled in advance. They have never let anybody run in with this poker chip and cash in on the fly. If that's always been an option, why hasn't anybody done that? It's not consistent. It doesn't make any sense. And frankly, like the Money in the Bank briefcase started as a really interesting concept and it launched some people's career, but it's an afterthought nowadays. Because if you have it all the time, it's just like you should be able to make a star out of that instantly, and they have failed to do so in WWE. MJF is already a star. What does he need to cash in a poker chip after a guy's already had a match for? Like, I need some rules. I need some restrictions. I need to know what is and isn't allowed. Did I miss anything? Did they say at one point he can cash in whenever he wants? And did I miss it? Did I miss it all the other times? Have they been saying this all along and I'm just missing it, or am I?
I think Excalibur might have said like that. Well, I guess they're saying they don't know when he will. So I guess
I know they've said stuff like that,
right.
but that is vague and ambiguous that by them saying that, you as the viewer could either think, oh, he has to pick a date, or oh, is he going to cash in at the end of a match? Like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like they intentionally leave room to be ambiguous so that when they decide they want to change their minds, they can, and then they just hope that people forgot about the way things have been. Like, they're so ambiguous about it that it feels intentional. Because it's not that hard of a thing to be specific about. Okay, you win the chip, you get a future title shot. Or you win the chip, you can challenge whenever, even if it's after a match. But they refuse to come out and clarify because they still can't decide exactly how they want to use it going forward. And that's ridiculous.
Come on, Tony.
It's just not cohesive. And it's not cool. Like, television shows, this isn't a wrestling thing. This isn't AEW isn't doing what I want anymore. This is, if I watch a show on television, it should be cohesive. This isn't cohesive. This is not cohesion. It's not. So that's me going off on the poker chip. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was just thrown last second together. And like, I understand you have to kill the time, but it definitely wasn't needed to kill the time that way.
He could have just come out and talked.
Yep.
He could have just come out. Why didn't he attack him with the poker chip? Like, there was 9 million things you could have done. And that was dumb.
Yep.
So that's Dynamite. Overall, what did you think of the show?
I thought it was very good. That was a very good show.
Yeah, unfortunate circumstances at the end, but overall, I was entertained watching it. Some of the segments were good. It wasn't my favorite Dynamite ever, but
No, but it was a solid one.
solid. 6.87 out of 10.
Yeah, it was definitely a C rating. 70%. Sure.
C plus.
Yeah.
I'll give it a C plus. Slightly. You're almost better than your average Dynamite. But the thing with Dynamite is, on average, it's usually pretty good. So it's a tough scale,
So yeah, there's a high bar to get to.
The Rampage bar, however, not so high.
Very low.
And so this week, Fish and I were actually recording earlier than normal, so we haven't seen Rampage. And what we're going to do this week is we have the card, and we're just going to review Rampage like we've already seen it. And we're going to see how close we actually get to the actual show come Friday. So we've got to do a little bit of decision making here, Fish. We've got 4 matches listed for this AEW Rampage show. Here's what they are. You've got the Acclaimed versus the Varsity Athletes in a titles versus trademark match. You've got Willow Nightingale versus Penelope Ford in a singles match. Hook will be defending the FTW title against Ari Daivari. And Roosh will face Dark Order's 10. And I have no idea if this is Mask versus Career. I assume it is.
No, it's to leave him alone.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if Preston loses, or if he wins, Roosh and his family have to leave the Dark Order alone. Got it. So, which of these sounds like the opener? I think it's the tag team title match.
I want to say it's the tag titles, and the main event would be the 10 versus Roosh.
I'm right there with you. That's also what I think. So now all we got to decide is which one is going to go on after the title match. Is it going to be the women's match?
I think it's going to be the women's.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right. I can get behind that. So, in the opener, this is AEW Rampage in the future, but in the past, because we haven't seen it yet, but by the time this airs, it will have happened. Yeah.
We have the Rick and Morty portal gun.
Exactly.
We're just jumping through.
So now that we're back, opener from AEW Rampage in the future. The Acclaim defeated the Varsity Athletes after some shenanigans by Mark Sterling. At the end of the match, Billy Gunn and the Ass Boys both got to hold their head high, and Scissor.
The Acclaim, not the Ass Boys.
You're right, my bad. Billy Gunn, Daddy Ass, and the Acclaimed, they're going to scissor after they put the boots to Mark Sterling at the conclusion of the match.
Billy Gunn's going to interrupt Mark Sterling from trying to interrupt, give him the famouser. Yes. Then Josh Woods is going to get the mic drop.
And that's it. Acclaimed win. It's going to go about 10 and a half minutes through a commercial break. And at no point is the crowd ever going to buy that the Varsity Athletes have a chance at winning this.
But they're just going to sing Scissor Me Daddy Ass or Scissor Me Daddy, whatever that they did in Toronto.
Yep. They sure will. They'll be super excited to see the Acclaimed. Next match, we got Willow Nightingale defeating Penelope Ford. What do you think here?
I was going to say Penelope Ford with some help.
I'm on board with that. Penelope Ford defeats Willow Nightingale after some help from Kip or one of the other people she was feuding with. I don't know. She was kind of teaming with the Good Doctor, but now the Good Doctor doesn't seem to be teaming with that. I don't know. But
I just feel like this is a match where Willow Nightingale is not going to win, and it's lined up for her to win. So that's what makes it for me to bet the opposite.
And you've convinced me, so I'm in lockstep with you. Penelope Ford defeats Willow Nightingale after some help, and the match is fine.
Yeah, average,
passable, better than what Penelope Ford. Probably going to look better than she did 2 years ago.
Okay, the help, the bunny. The bunny's going to interfere.
The bunny, maybe the bunny and Kip Sabian together.
Yeah, very well.
Helping. So between this match and the FTW title match, you bet your ass they're going to feature 10 million promos and backstage interviews. And I can guarantee you that one of them is Jade Cargill and the baddies backstage looking for Nyla Rose.
Mm-hmm.
They can't find her, but then out of nowhere, Nyla Rose comes flying into the screen, starts attacking the baddies. There will be 1 or 2 people there to help Nyla Rose. And then they're going to set up a tag team match because God forbid we just get to them wrestling.
And the security comes in and breaks them up.
Yep. So that's definitely going to happen. They're definitely going to interview Christian Cage again. And he's going to talk about how Jungle Boy is a bitch or something. And then he's going to say that Luchasaurus wants some title. But then he's not actually going to get a title shot for a long time.
Yeah.
So they're going to do some promo about that in here.
And then there's going to be another one with FTR and Swerve in Our Glory.
Yep. We're going to get one of those, probably right in this window as well. So, and you know what? They're definitely going to do that segment because they're wrestling next week on Dynamite. So that'll definitely be a thing. You think by now they'd go to the next match, perhaps?
I think so.
All right. So in that
because
case,
it's going to be Hook crushing Ari Daivari.
Which is exactly what happens. He crushes Ari Daivari. I bet you that the Trustbusters try to pull some shenanigans.
Well, the Parker guy is going to try to beat him up after.
Yep, he's definitely going to try and beat him up after. And they're definitely going to tease Hook being able to suplex this big Parker Boudreaux guy. But then he's going to get attacked from behind by the other Trustbusters.
By Ari Daivari.
And then 2 new people, not Action Bronson, or maybe just one person, is going to run down and save Hook. And then, to cap it all off, Hook is going to get the big suplex on Parker Boudreaux, and everyone's going to go, oh!
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And what a beatdown.
Yeah, big
Hook
beat
is going to give. Yeah.
Big beatdown. It's not even going to be funny. We're going to feel bad for Daivari by the time it's over. I feel as if they're going to put in one more little segment before the main event.
That's what I think so, because it is a squash. It's a, it's going to be a short match that there is going to be a promo here, a video package.
So let's call it a promo. Let's say someone's coming to the ring to cut a promo. I feel like they'll have a little bit of time. Maybe it's even a backstage interview. What storyline are they advancing?
I think that they're going to have to talk about John Moxley and MJF. Ask him what happened, maybe. I don't know, but I'm not too sure. But I am also kind of leaning towards Warjoe might getting a segment here.
Maybe a squash match again.
Maybe a squash.
If you're out of ideas, just put Warjoe in a squash match. That could happen. Here's what I was thinking. The more I thought about this, on Dynamite, we're going to have Jericho and Daniel Garcia versus Claudio and Wheeler Yuta.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think that perhaps we hear from Daniel Garcia after accusations on Wednesday of him using the Blackpool Combat Club?
Very well could be. I think that's also on the table.
That's what I think is going to happen. They've featured this JAS on Rampage lately.
They do feature the Ring of Jericho as well.
And then at the end, we're going to sit there and we're going to watch Roosh beat Preston Vance and his family continue to mess with the Dark Order.
Yeah, continue to bother the Dark Order.
Yeah. I don't actually see a scenario in which 10 is going to beat Roosh.
I don't either.
Unless Tony is going to take out his frustrations with Andrade on his entire family.
Unless Jose, the assistant, costs Roosh the match.
Ooh.
Or hear this is going to get spicy.
Lay it on.
Dragon Lee joins the Dark Order and takes out Roosh.
Dude, maybe Dragon Lee is the new leader of the Dark Order. And they can call themselves the Order of the Dragon.
Well, that's a good one because The House of Dragon.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that.
All right, now we got the wheels turning. We just booked the best Rampage ever. And it fucking ends in Dragon Lee standing tall, turning on his family and joining the Dark Order. To lead it and change the name.
Yes, exactly.
Classic. It'll be an average show, like it always is.
Yeah, it definitely the fall from grace. Rampage has been.
I'm excited to watch Rampage now, though, because we just booked a whole show, and I'm actually curious how accurate it is.
If I end up calling this Dragon Lee surprise, I'm gonna go play the lottery.
Yeah. If that happens, we are both going to as many gas stations as we can find and purchasing an enormous amount of lottery tickets. But until that happens, do you have any final thoughts on Dynamite or what your expectations for Rampage are? Anything else?
I didn't know if we were doing top 5 and match of the week.
I mean, do you think your match of the week is going to happen on Rampage?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's not going to happen on Rampage. So,
well, then let's go ahead and do top 5 and match of the week.
Okay, so you're ready for me to go?
Go ahead.
So, coming in at number 5, you're not going to get this one, but it's a TikTok sensation. James Draws 5561. This man has been all over my For You page on TikTok, and big name teams are starting to use his clips now. And he's the guy that says, "What happened when the team loses?" So it makes you feel horrible that your team loses, and this guy just starts to ask, "What happened?" I'll send you some TikToks of it, but you're gonna realize this guy's he's been flying under the radar. He had a huge week when USC lost to Utah. Huge week.
I bet he did. I'm not a huge TikToker, but I'm intrigued. If it landed in your top 5, there's got to be some quality there. My number 5, totally contradicting what I just said, is actually AEW Rampage. And hear me out. Hear me out. So, I'm putting AEW Rampage number 5 for one reason only. Any show that painfully average, I don't know how anyone is still watching it. And they've got like 500,000 people doing it. So, for the fact that their ratings are 0, and granted, it's consistently average to below average, but it's consistency. Aren't we all just looking to find something that we can do consistently? So, yeah. From a consistency perspective, off the charts.
Are we saying that Rampage is the model of consistency?
Just the definition of consistency, it totally captures that. So it is the same all the time.
In the Webster's dictionary, we're going to see a picture of the Rampage logo next to consistency.
Yep. So Rampage, for how painfully average and how long that hour feels, for the fact that it's got any viewers and that people actually care, is beyond me. So it's number 5.
So coming in at my number 4, it's going to be Pac again. And it's going to be a little different because I feel like he is going to get more frustrated wrestling this piece of fruit, Orange, than anybody else. I feel like he's getting annoyed already.
My number 4, my number 4 from last week, is silliness. It hasn't gone away, but it hasn't increased. So it only makes sense that it stays right in its number 4 spot. You had the TBS champion not able to find her own title again this week. Not a good look. This should count as a loss.
Yeah.
She technically lost the TBS title. It should count.
She lost the belt.
It should count as a blemish on her record. A song for another time. My number 4 is silliness.
Coming at my number 3 is going to be the Acclaim. They've actually dropped.
Oh.
Because they get to I don't know, have a random match that no one's going to take away their scissoring. So
My number 3 is also the Acclaimed, but I'm an idiot, so I forgot to put them in the rankings entirely last week. And they're lucky I'm putting them in there at all because their feud is just death.
Dumb.
Boring and dumb. And if these guys weren't over, this shit would get no reaction in the arena. No one cares about this storyline. They're just that happy to see the Acclaimed. And this is what you've chosen to use them for. But I digress. They themselves and Daddy Ass still awesome. So number 3, the Acclaimed. For making that feud work.
Coming in at my number 2, I have the Ring of Jericho.
Also my number 2. Just
throw that out there.
Out there.
And I really wish that he had the title at Death Before Dishonor because he has been dishonoring the Ring of Honor.
He is.
Dude, so hopefully he makes it to the next Death Before Dishonor because he's been choosing Dishonor this entire time.
Somebody's going to step up. Somebody's going to step up main event, Death Before Dishonor, and they are going to choose Death.
Yeah. And then, and the Code of Honor has not been adhering to either.
They will fight Jericho to their last breath if it means not choosing Dishonor. So that's it. That's my number 2. You can go ahead and get your number 1. I don't think anybody's debating the Ring of Jericho being up there.
No, not at all. Well deserved. Number 1, Jon Moxley.
Also my number 1.
It's hard to take him down after a hard match like that. Obviously, you don't want to see injuries, but he did retain. And he also kind of called out the show in the middle of the promo too at the end. He said this was a shit show. And I'm like, okay, well, good for him for just actually calling it out.
Self-awareness, big. Now, let me ask you a question. I want to make this clear. This isn't coming from me. This is just what I hear in the grapevine. Some people are saying that Jon Moxley's reign in the top 5, while historic, aided by a lack of competition.
Strength of schedule is
not me. I'm not saying this. This isn't me. I've just been hearing it.
Okay.
I think it's ridiculous. But
yeah, that's
your thoughts.
It's they just hate Jon Moxley being number 1. I mean, everyone hates Alabama for being so good. Yep. They just hate Jon Moxley for being so good.
Doesn't make him any less number 1.
Exactly. Just remember, it's going to be just as sweet to knock him off. You got to remember the taste.
Always getting a little taste. Match of the week. What do you got for me?
Jericho and Dalton Castle and the boys.
That is an excellent pick. And we are really feeling it this week because that's also my match of the week. By a landslide.
Too bad this wasn't the opener.
Too bad, huh?
That was an incredible match to just not be an opener.
I think that it would have had some competition for match of the week had the Hangman and Moxley played out to its completion. But if you take that match out, they ran away with it this week.
Oh, yeah.
Jericho is prime Jericho all over again.
And Dalton Castle just proven that he, was worthy of the Ring of Honor championship.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I've got nothing else.
I'm good to go.
No parting thoughts. From the Gould-Fish Pod, I'm Matt Gould.
And I'm Ryan Fish.
And you people have a great week. Peace.